Okay guys, welcome to the match. So this is Atlanteans, and our basic strategy is to just control the board. So we want to stop our opponent from building any sort of momentum on the board, and hence our god power is going to be Mage Bolt. And in our mulligan phase, which is coming up in a moment, all we want to focus on is just getting cards that deal damage and get rid of stuff. That's all we want to do. Now you can see here I'm trying to go for spells or creatures that just get rid of stuff. Laylord Hatchling's not a good option early game because he's too high mana cost. We really want, you know, one cost, 2 cost, 3 cost at most. Here again, Shape Blast, too much, so we just replace that as well.
Let's see how many ways you can disappoint
Okay,
me.
so on to the mulligan phase.
A worthy adversary.
I've got nothing to clear, so I have 2 options. I can skip my turn, or I can pip and go for the Spire. This is actually a great move to go first. A, because he's got ward, so it's going to be really hard for my opponent, especially my opponent being magic, and we are facing Atlanteans. Very hard for my opponent to get rid of him, so I think I opt to go for the Spire first. Okay, so here's my opponent's move. He plays 2 creatures.
My turn.
See what I mean by having spells that clear the board? That's all we want to do against Atlanteans. We just need to stop them from gaining momentum and taking over the board. So you can see here I attack with Spire. I want to get the lab specimen because, which is the one on the left, because it gives you blitz, so you can take out a really big creature using that card. I also have, if you have a look at my hand there, I have Tracking Bolt, which is a great move, and I also have Eldritch to clear something. But I think the most optimal play in this position is the Tracking Bolt. The 1 damage to each creature is huge for me.
That's enough for now.
And you'll see in a moment just how strong having ward is. It basically forces my opponent to waste the spell. See there how I soaked up the damage from his creature. So now it's going to slow my opponent down because he has to get rid of that Spire. So there we go, he has to use his entire turn just to clear it.
Promising.
Now in this spot, I don't really have a great move. I've got plenty of removal,
A wandering
but the
mind
problem
treads a
is
dangerous
there are no
path.
creatures on board. So this deck I'm playing, which is ramp magic or card draw magic, so to speak, it functions best when there is stuff to react to. Alright, so when there are creatures on the board and I have to deal with them, this is when the deck really excels. So for now I just have to play passive, just have to wait for him to play something. Being Atlantean magic, he is going to play creatures eventually. So there we go, there's one. So there's going to be plenty of opportunity for me to use my spells. I think the line I take here is Eldritch Blast. So I've got 2 of them in my hand, 4 mana, so I can definitely start ramping things up here. We're just sticking to the same strategy. We're just clearing the board, keeping it empty so that we can take over in the late game. By doing this, we're sort of securing our victory. We do not want to let our opponent get lots of creatures on the board, especially Atlanteans. they have a big, I think it's a 4-drop, a big 4-drop, which gives them access to Rise, so we don't want to give them that. My thought process here was going for Divine Perception, just to get a bit of draw power. I am a bit short on cards, I only have 5 in my hand at the moment. Basically, the more cards I have in my hand, the stronger options, and the more options I have. Okay, so my opponent gets double ward up, which is really annoying for me. But I have a solution for this scenario. I end up going for the lootable corpse from the Sanctum. And what I do with this play is I actually take out one of his creatures. So I end up going for the Crystal Seer on the left. You'll see me sacrifice. There we are. And so we want to get rid of the one on the left as soon as we can, because every time we play a spell, it buffs in our Atlantean. Can't do much else here, so I decide to just go for a God Power and get rid of the ward, allowing me to destroy it on my next turn. I'm not too sure if this was the right move from my opponent. I really feel that he should have went wide here. Although he could be scared that I have Shape Blast, but lucky for me I don't. But he just went for one big massive creature, which is fine. I've got the Lady Lord Hatchling, and I can get rid of one of his creatures. So there we go. And yeah, we basically just want to keep repeating this process. So just don't allow our opponent to get a full, you know, like 3 or 4 monsters out at one time. So playing all these small Atlantean creatures, they are fairly easy to remove for a deck like mine. So this is where I mean about controlling the board. So he's got 3 creatures up. We basically have to get rid of them. If he gets one more Atlantean out, we could lose the game. And as you can see, I was thinking about attacking something just to get rid of it, but there's honestly a much better play here.
That would be unwise.
We can go for the Cosmic Witness at 1 mana, and from there we can grab a mystery card. We've got the Forbidden Knowledge, so the card that we really want is the Leyline Balance. We want to transform all his creatures into rats. So that's a way that we can control the board. I just have to sacrifice 1 creature. I hesitate here because I realize that I can get a bit of value with the hatchling. I end up going face and then using the Leyline Balance. So you'll see that here. There we go. We've just minimized the threat that we had, and then Divine Perception, we get a bit of draw power as well. So you can see we've only got 4 cards in our hand, and by drawing 3 cards from the bottom of our deck, we keep our options open. We are more flexible when it comes to dealing with threats.
Patience is
You can
a
see
virtue.
here we're approaching 7 mana, so I end up taking drawing Hotak, Unbound Flames, and Forbidden Knowledge. Just anything to keep the board clear, because our strategy is to get to the late game and then dominate
These
our
tactics
opponent.
only serve to hinder your progress.
This is a really good position for us. Our opponent has 3 basically worthless creatures on board now. And we've still got a lot of health left. We have almost, or just over half of our health at 16. So against a deck like Atlanteans, this is really good for us. If we were, say, against a deck like Dread Death or Dragon Death, we would be in a lot of trouble here. So I think with this line, Hortuck or Unbound Flames looks really good. We still need to keep the board clear, and we need to prioritize Atlanteans, getting rid of those first. I was going to Unbound Flame, but then I want to get more value from my Unbound Flames. So I think Hortuck was the better choice here, which will keep us alive, give us health,
That's enough for now.
and then we get the 2 Legion Commanders with Blitz. So we can easily take out 2 of his creatures. And here we obviously want to prioritize getting rid of the Atlantean on the right hand side, and stick to that strategy of just keeping the board clear. Also notice how I'm just taking my time. I'm not quickly ending my turn or rushing things too fast. I'm basically just analyzing what's the best move or the best line I should take. And I'm just reading over their skills, and then I end up making my decision. Doing the commentary, I can already tell what's the best way to go. But during the gameplay, sometimes it's a mistake if you're making your decisions too fast without thinking them through. So we cleared 2 of his creatures now. We're in a great position. He now has to try and get rid of all 3 of my creatures. And remember, he's playing Atlanteans, so they're not really that strong. They have a lot of small, weak creatures. So it's going to be really hard for my opponent to try and deal with this now. As you can see, I'm taunting him a little bit. He's really taking his time with this move. It's basically game over from here if he can't clear this. And he ends his turn. So not a great move from our opponent. Now we're in a really good position to take control of this game. So what I'm thinking here is, if I play the Shadow Scryer and kill his Atlantean, remember we want to keep his board clear, then my Shadow Scryer will live because it's got ward and protected. Slight misplay on my behalf. I should have kept Hortuck alive and sacrificed a Legion Commander instead, but that's okay. And now I'm just basically applying pressure. Gonna use the Lord of the Sky just to push my momentum. Puts a big body out, 5/5, and we also get access to a Leylord Hatchling for the following turn, and that can help us once again to clear the opponent's board. So basically there's no comeback for him from here now. Anything he plays I'll be able to get rid of straight away. So he takes a weird line, goes for the Valka's Discovery. Mind you, in hindsight, there's not much he can do, so I guess my opponent's just trying to clear the board as much as he can. So he plays an Atlantean there. Now the question is, why does he deal the 2 damage to the face?
I can't do that.
He could have dealt it to maybe one of my creatures. I'm not too sure what my opponent was thinking there. I also noticed that he's only used 1 pip, so he still has 2 out of his 3 pips remaining. And he still hasn't used the last 2. This is pretty straightforward. So we're going to go for, the best line here is to go for Laylord Hatchling. We just want to keep clearing his board. And that does 4 damage. Now he's only got a weak frontliner in front of us now. So we're clearing that. And also another tip that I like to share with people is always take note of how many cards your opponent has in their hand. The more cards they have, the more options they've got. So by watching how many cards they have, it sort of dictates to us how we can play. Do we need to be a bit more conservative, or can we be a bit more aggressive? I see he's only got 3 cards, so I'm basically going all in here. I want to apply as much pressure as possible. I go for the mana unlocks because I've got my winning condition in the Laykeeper. And I'm basically just drawing cards just to generate more momentum. So here we go. 2 Unbound Flames now. So it's basically game over after this point. So now he decides to go wide. Unfortunately for my opponent, he's sort of left it a bit too late. I've got him down low enough now where I can literally finish him off. I don't need to worry about clearing board now. I can just go straight face and I can deal 5 damage with the Worm Breath, which will seal the victory.